Everton 0, Manchester United 1. Not necessarily the greatest Premier League match that you will ever see, but I do think United just about edged the game and secured a massive 3 points. So let's not waste any time. Let's get straight into this and look at how Manchester United secured those big 3 points with some promising parts of the performance, but also a couple of concerning parts as well. I don't think it was faultless, I don't think it was perfect. But let's start off with some of the positives. Particularly in the first half, United were dominant in terms of possession. United had lots of the ball, and Everton were deep behind the ball. They were compact in a 4-4-2. And the job for United in the first half was to try and find a way through this mid/low block. Try and find a way through the pitch or around the pitch or over that Everton block. Now, the way that United looked to do this was slightly different in terms of shape to what we've seen in recent weeks. The lineup was quite familiar, apart from Leny Yoro coming in for Lisandro Martinez, which meant that Manchester United built possession in a back three, with Luke Shaw now being the one tucking in from deeper, rather than our right back doing it. So instead, Dalot now goes further forward, Amad comes inside, Bruno bumps along one, and Cunha is now the widest player on the left-hand side. And you can see that here, United in a sort of 3-2-4-1 or a 3-2-5. However you want to look at it, it doesn't really matter too much. The idea is the same. The shape is pretty similar. The question for Manchester United was from here trying to play through Everton, and I think there were areas where we could do that because Everton are quite aggressive. This was something that we spoke about in our tactical preview. Everton aren't a team to just sit there. They like to try and be aggressive. They like to try and get towards the ball. They like to try and close you down. And particularly in the midfield, they can be incredibly aggressive at times. We often see one of the deep midfielders jumping up one higher to help the attacking midfielder to line up on the Manchester United double pivot. The thing that this created for United, though, was a potential overload in behind the Everton midfield, with Amad and Bruno Fernandes either side of Idrissa Gueye. Now, the problem was, for large parts of the game, United didn't quite get in there, but you can see here that 2 versus 1 is there. Amad is practically unmarked. It's just trying to find a way to actually get the ball into that position. Now, whilst we may not have exploited that particular gap, it did sort of have a knock-on effect because a few things started to happen. Armstrong started to play deeper and deeper for Everton, trying to track Amad, which gave Leny Yoro more and more room down the right-hand side to step forward with the ball. But also, the double movements of Amad and Dalot caused some serious problems, especially when Casemiro was picking the ball up in the middle. Now, I don't think Casemiro had a good game, to be honest. I think he was really poor, as were several of the United players on the night. But his passing range is always a big threat. And these double movements with Amad and Dalot did cause a problem, where Amad would come inside towards the ball, and at the same time, Diogo Dalot would go round on the right-hand side. And the important thing here is the timing of the movement. If they just stand there, if Amad just stands here and starts there, and Dalot does the same, it's quite easy for Everton to pick up. But because Amad sort of attaches himself often to these Everton defenders, with Mbeumo always on that side as well, occupying one of the centre-backs, Amad could sort of pull into these positions, pull players with him, and then Dalot could go in behind. And I actually think, apart from a couple of silly moments towards the end, I think Dalot was one of our best players, and I certainly think he was one of our most threatening players with these runs in behind. The annoying thing was, we just couldn't quite get that pass across. Now, I am just quickly going to take a moment to ask you guys for a favour, because I haven't done this for a while. So please could you subscribe to the channel? We're trying to hit 95,000 subscribers, and I need your help. So press that massive red button that says subscribe, please. Okay, so we've seen that United, via Diogo Dalot, could either go over Everton or we could go round them with the combination down the right-hand side. But how about through the middle? How were Manchester United in the middle of the pitch? Well, I think we started fast. I think we started well. And I think when we were technically cleaner, I think we actually exploited the space in the middle very well. The problem was, as the game went on, it got more scrappy. The quality seemed to really leave the game quite early, and United then didn't exploit those spaces. But the spaces, again, for me are obvious because Everton are, again, so aggressive with the way that they jump. They'll often jump into a front two, with Dewsbury Hall joining Barry, and then both midfielders will come higher. Now, what this means is that for Kobbie Mainoo and Casemiro, it's difficult to get on the ball with a lot of time. It's difficult to pick the ball up here, get your head up and pick a pass because you're quite rushed by the Everton midfielders. However, If you can go outside of Everton and then come back inside, there is a huge space in behind the Everton midfielders. A space that even Mbeumo was dropping into at times. Almost no striker here for Manchester United, but it opens up a lot of room in midfield. Now, the good thing is there were a few occasions where Manchester United were able to get the ball into these positions. We were able to move into that space behind the midfield. The problem from that point, though, was, I don't know about you guys, but I just sensed a lack of synergy in the Manchester United attack. A lot of these players almost looked, again, like they hadn't played with each other before. This was something that we mentioned in the West Ham game. Our big players didn't really turn up. I don't know that Mbeumo really turned up in this game. Ahmad didn't do an awful lot. I think Bruno, Casemiro were poor. Kobbie Mainoo didn't really do much at all. I think Cunha and Dalot were our biggest attacking threats, and they're arguably both playing out of position. Dalot really high on the right-hand side and Cunha quite wide on the left a lot of the time. So for United, the gaps were there. And I think as the game went on, we just didn't take the risk often enough. We didn't often enough slide that ball. Here, the ball can be released to Bruno Fernandes and we could potentially be in a great position. But instead, we mess about with it and lose the ball just a couple of seconds later. It's those moments which just stunted Manchester United. And I think that's why throughout the game, despite having a lot of the ball in the first half, there was never a true spell of dominance, a true spell where United really penned Everton back in and were sort of knocking on the door trying to break them down. We didn't really see that. The individual quality on the night just wasn't very good. But also tactically, there was that problem that these players didn't quite look like they understood their roles all the time. Players were often on top of each other, and then in the next moment, the space is completely empty. It just clashed a little bit. Now, it was that lack of quality on the ball that allowed Everton right back into this match. Just look at the momentum chart for the second half. You can see Everton with a lot of the ball. Manchester United started to defend a little bit deeper. Now, I don't actually think this is a terrible thing always. When you're struggling on the ball, you're struggling to find a way through the Everton mid-block. Sometimes the best thing to do is actually have a spell of the game where you don't have possession. Let the opposition have the ball for a bit and try and hit them on the transition and try and hit them in the big spaces. The problem was for United that at times we were defending so deep that we almost didn't get the opportunity to do that. I think Cunha and Ahmad did some brilliant defensive work in this game. Ahmad always does, but from Cunha, it was absolutely fantastic to see the work rate from him. Look at his defensive recoveries in this game. Brilliant. Ahmad as well on the right-hand side. The problem that we had, though, was when we could win the ball back, we're defending resolutely, we win the ball back, we didn't really have that quick option to go to. The Manchester United counter-attacks in this game weren't scintillating like they were against Manchester City in Carrick's first game. Here, United picked the ball up and just sort of jogged towards the halfway line before then slowing down and trying to build another move. I think United were desperate for control, which meant in the quick transitions, we just took the extra touch, we slowed down a little bit. But that almost stunted our growth a little bit. It sort of limited us in those attacking moments. The counterattacks didn't turn into counterattacks. They turned into the next wave of slower possession, which was a bit of a problem. Until we finally made the change. Mbeumo went to the right wing and Benjamin Sesko came up top. Now, this is one of the first times we've seen Mbeumo on the right wing at Manchester United, the position we signed him for. Under Carrick, he's been a striker, and under Ruben Amorim, he was often a right 10. This is one of the first times he's been a winger. And you guys will remember, or you may remember, I don't know, but when we were signing Mbeumo, when we were linked with him, something I spoke about was this. You can see it here. Mbeumo initially deep doing defensive work. Brentford win the ball back, and the first thing that Mbeumo does is he gets on his bike. Straight away, we can see him starting to accelerate. He wants to spin into the channel, and the great thing here is his teammates just know where he's going to be at Brentford. They've had that luxury of playing with him for a few seasons. They know where he's going to be. They know they've just got to chuck that ball into the channel, and Mbeumo is going to run onto it. And you might think he can't physically get to that ball before the goalkeeper. And I tell you what, you'd be exactly right. Robert Sanchez beats Mbeumo to the ball. We've got another situation here. Brentford win the ball back. The first thing they look to do is to get the ball into the right channel. He doesn't even need to look. He knows where his teammate is going to be, so he puts the ball into the position. The ball goes in behind, and once again, Mbeumo is going to race onto it. Now, if you think of the goal that Manchester United score, Cunha picks the ball up on the left-hand side in a deep position, does incredibly well, but he plays that big, long switch, just knowing that Bryan Mbeumo is going to be there. So that was great to see. The quality from Cunha is fantastic, and it's knowing your teammate. Mbeumo was always going to be up there. He does a fantastic job. He does really well. And then the pure speed from Benjamin Sesko is absolutely terrifying. But it almost annoyed me a little bit because it showed that when we did transition faster, we were very, very dangerous in this game. There was another one late on which we probably should have scored with Sesko. So it was a little bit frustrating. The second late on in the game, the last 20 minutes, we started to really go for those counter-attacks. We had a massive threat, which is exciting. It's really promising to know that United can be that quick team that literally kills the opposition in just one moment. This game is won in one moment of transitioning quality. But it almost makes it a little bit annoying that we didn't do more of this earlier in the game. Now, the thing I want to finish on is a major positive, because for me, this is actually what got United to 3 points, and that was the defence, and in particular, Harry Maguire and Senna Lomans. Two incredible performances in the Manchester United box. We always say football is won in the boxes. At one end, we had Benjamin Sesko with a brilliant goal, takes his opportunity well. Great, that's how you score goals. But you've got to defend your box as well. And I think Maguire and Lomans were just absolutely fantastic. Look at Maguire's defensive stats from this game. 10 clearances is an absolute joke. 8 of those being aerial clearances. He is just a monster in the Manchester United penalty area. And let's remember, this week he switched sides. Recently he's been on the right hand side of defence, but the change with Lenny Yoro into the side saw Maguire move, but still he was just absolutely fantastic. And Everton late on in the game really were throwing everything at it. They got more forwards on the pitch, they were launching balls into the box, but Maguire was just fantastic. And then Lomans, we did a video earlier in the week talking about his catching, the fact that he looks after the ball. It's great that he takes pressure off the defenders. He actually said it himself after the game. It's brilliant to see. But the corners, I mean, these corners were something else, weren't they? It was a barrage of corners late on in the game, about 100 people all standing on Lom's goal line. But he's just fantastic. He's so confident, he's so bold, he's so brave. And again, a lot of the time he's catching the ball, but if he can't catch the ball, he's punching it. And it is such a nice sense of security to have at the back. And Manchester United secure their first away clean sheet in the league since last March. It was needed. I think it's the 3rd clean sheet now under Michael Carrick. Manchester United needed that. And I think Maguire and Lomans and Lenny Yoro and Dalot, I think they were all fantastic, these guys. Deserve a lot of credit. So yeah, as you can probably tell from my sort of assessment of the game, I don't think this was perfect. I don't think this was a scintillating Manchester United performance. I think there were some good things in there. I think we created gaps well in the Everton backline, but we were just hesitant in exploiting them. We didn't take the extra risk to find that player in the hole. And I think we missed something when Benjamin Sesko doesn't start. In terms of next week against Crystal Palace, there's going to be a conversation about who should be in the starting 11, because I think Sesko has earned a spot. Every time he comes on, he makes a huge impact. But I think tactically we look more balanced with Sesko on the pitch. Defensively, I thought United were absolutely fantastic, absolutely brilliant. For the amount of ball that Everton had in the second half, and, you know, the fans were behind them, the momentum was there for Everton, I don't really feel that they ever had a chance. Really, apart from set pieces, they didn't really create anything. And even on the set pieces, they didn't create anything because Maguire and Lomans were so strong with dealing with the ball. I think Mazraoui did well on a couple of set pieces at the end as well, and secured a huge 3 points. It is such a big 3 points. Puts us into the top 4. The league standings look a little bit nicer, and it really sets up a big 3 games coming up for Manchester United. Now, I sort of feel like we're going to be saying that till the end of the season, but I think it's true. This 3 points is absolutely massive. If we're serious about top 4/top 5, though, the performances do have to improve. There were glimpses, there were potential in the first 20 minutes, but we just never really built on that, and the momentum wasn't there. It was an off night from several players again, but the result is fantastic, so that's how we're going to leave it, on the positive. United, I still think, just about deserved the win, and got it, which is brilliant. So, yeah, it's great to see. Thank you guys very much for watching this video. Hope you have enjoyed it, and as always, I'll see you in the next one.